Welcome to the podcast. My name is Jamie Knight, and I'm a realtor with Real Broker here in Cajun Country, Lafayette, Louisiana. The goal of this podcast is to provide massive value by bringing insider access to our area's top agents and find out how they've been able to achieve massive success in their business. My hope is that you take away a few things from their experiences to grow your own business. My guest today is a friend and fellow real agent, Sean Hettich. Sean has been one of the top agents in our community for the last 10 years and has consistently closed over 200 transactions per year as a single agent. Sean's production has consistently been over $40 to $50 million per year in annual production. Welcome to the podcast, Sean.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man, I'm excited to get your story and have everybody hear how you got here to South Louisiana with us and give us a little bit about where you came from and how you got here.
Okay, well, I came from kind of two places in a roundabout way. I'm originally from Michigan. I lived abroad in Australia for 10 years. I actually became a dual citizen of Australia. And then a long story that we'll maybe touch on got me back to America, and a long winding path of events got me down into South Louisiana. So
gotcha.
How deep you want me to go, you can choose.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the crazy things is I think I was one of the first agents that you met down here in Lafayette, Louisiana.
You were the first agent I ever met, because when I had actually sold my company in Australia, I had a company that I had sold. And when I got to Louisiana, I was actually looking for investments, business, cash to deploy, whatever. So I started clicking around and I was thinking like real estate. Yeah, real estate is cool. Like flips, rentals, whatever, And so I started looking around for foreclosure homes. And at the time you were running a website, I can't remember what it was, but it was like Lafayette Foreclosures or something like that. And I inquired about some sketchy property, and you drove out there. I remember the neighborhood still.
Probably Craigslist or something.
It was like on Craigslist, I think. Yeah, but it was like out in Broussard. I remember the exact house.
I remember the house too. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember the exact house and everything. Yeah. So you were my first agent that I ever connected with.
That's awesome. And I made it look so seamless that you came into the market and absolutely crushed everybody else.
Well, I was just like, man, if this guy can do it, anybody can. No,
yeah, right. No, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. This was 20 years ago, and my skills have improved since then, but here we are.
I'm just picking on it.
Yeah. So tell us, I guess they don't want to hear our backstory necessarily, but tell us kind of how, and I guess you got to the top agent in the market. Let's talk about that, because it was a gradual process, but eventually, you were able to start really leveling up your business. So bring us back to those early days of you're new to Louisiana. No one knows you. You haven't been able to, you don't have any past clients, any database. So tell us, how did you achieve at the level that you achieved early on with nothing, coming to here with nobody?
Well, that's because I really didn't come with a personal network, but I did come with something, which was many, many years of experience in a different area, which is business and marketing. So I had done my undergraduate and master's degree in business and marketing. I did my undergraduate degree in Michigan and actually went to Australia for my master's degree. And so I invested a lot in my mind to educate myself. And then after I got my master's in Australia, I actually ended up working as a marketing manager for a few years, then started my own company in Australia and ended up building that company up to a pretty decent sized company, sold it. So I had a nice chunk of change. I actually got homesick. The reason why I put the company for sale was because I was homesick for America and I just wanted to move home to be closer to family and friends. And I just love our country and I just wanted to be home. And so I put the company up for sale intentionally, sold it, and then I moved back to America. And then, a winding path of personal events got me to Louisiana. So when I did arrive here, I came with a strong set of business marketing skills and a strong financial position. And that's kind of like what got me here with that skill set. And then so when I arrived, I was like, how am I going to deploy this skill set? Where am I going to focus these things that I have acquired? And so marketing, being a marketing professional and by background skills, education, and trade and practice, I started looking at the market that I was in, which was Lafayette, and what was hot in the market. which kind of not coincidentally is how I first bumped into you, because I noticed before I contacted you that there was a big gap in the market for real estate, meaning there was like a lot of there's a lot of opportunities in real estate, being
Right.
flips, rentals, whatever. And so I started looking at the flips and the rentals as assets to acquire and things to do in real estate. And throughout that process, I was like, well, if I was going to flip a house, let's say if I bought a flip through you or whatever, on the flip side, it might make more sense if I had my own real estate license so I can squeeze more margin out of that deal. So then I decided to get my real estate license for that reason. But then I was like, well, let me do a few real estate transactions to see what's the loan process? What is title? What is whatever? What are inspections? I didn't really understand. So I was like, let me get my license so I can understand the process. And then I got my license and I was like, well, let me service a few clients to like see how this all works in reality. So I helped a few people buy some houses and sell some houses. And I was like, I actually really liked that. So I was like, I'm just going to be a realtor.
Yeah.
I'm just going to be a realtor. I think this is more fun. And I really enjoyed the process of transactional real estate. So that's kind of like the very Cliff Notes version of my start off.
Yeah, nice. And I'm sure you saw something as a marketing professional that's been in that space, that you probably saw a section of the market that you could insert yourself and be able to do something different than the community was doing at that time.
I laughed myself frequently because I say, if I use the same strategies today that I used, 11 years ago when I started, I probably wouldn't be able to have the same results. So you are right. Like back when I first started, the opportunity that I saw. Now you might be thinking like, oh, back in I got my license halfway through 2013. So you might be thinking, oh, 2013, that wasn't that long ago. But how we were doing business in 2013 in Lafayette was very different than how we do business here as realtors now. Like we evolved so quickly. And part of that evolution was prompted by me and bringing a skill set and demanding more of agents. And I'm not trying to, there's other agents that did similar things to me, but I want to say I just spearheaded, and I'm going to go through some of those things. So back then, what I would do is I would look at properties that were expiring and canceling in the MLS, and I would look at ones that I really felt should have sold. And then I would literally just go and door knock those people. And what I would do is I'd door knock them and I'd say, hey, I'm Sean Hettich. I'm a realtor in Lafayette. I saw that your house came on market, or just came off market, excuse me. And I really feel like this house should have sold, don't you? And they're like, yeah, I'm really surprised it didn't. I said, well, I have some ideas and I think I know why it didn't sell. And I would go prepared with things that I would do differently. And a lot of those things would be, I don't feel like there was enough photos. I don't feel like the photos that you had were very well presented. I think that we can make some changes there. Sometimes it was price, but usually it was presentation. I don't feel like the descriptions on the property was good enough. It didn't really sell it. And they were basically just nodding their heads going like, yeah, like it was pretty poor effort. And so what I did is I noticed that some agents in this town were using professional photographers on their luxury listings, but not a lot of agents were using really nice photos on all of their listings. And so what I decided to do is just use professional photography on everything I did, whether it be a $50,000 foreclosed trailer or $1 million mansion or anything in between. So I told them, like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to take like a bunch of high-end professional photos. I'm going to do an awesome write-up. And by the way, I need you to do some stuff for me too. So I'm going to remove all this junk from the kitchen countertops. I want you to get rid of the LSU purple blankets and get rid of all this excess furniture that's not needed. We're going to really present it. And basically I kind of struck a deal with them. I was like, if I sell this property for you, I want you to use me as the agent to use to buy your most of these people were upgrading. So use me as your agent to upsize. And then I'm your realtor for life. I'm going to help you. And they were like, and I would say, and if I don't deliver, no big deal. I won't even make you sign a 6-month listing agreement. I'm so confident. Just sign a 1-month listing agreement with me and we'll see where we go. And what I would do, I'd walk the house with them, say, get rid of this, tidy up this, do that, do this. They would do those things. I'd send them my professional photographer through. I would do this very glowing write-up, and then I would put it all in the MLS. And then social media was really kind of its infancy back then too. So I'd put it all over social media, which is not a lot of people were doing that. All the pictures, everything. And I would just start blasting it everywhere. It'd be like 3 days contract, 5 days contract, 2 days, multiple offers. And then they would be selling their $150,000 or $200,000 property with me, but then they'd be buying a $350,000 or $400,000. So these clients in totality were a very, very strong financial client for me.
Nice. Yeah. And look, the same thing still works today in today's market too, because I mean, I just got a contact from an expired listing that I called last week and looking back through the photos, and it was cell phone photos and, that kind of stuff. And I'm like, man, I even looked at the description and this property qualifies in a zone where you could do Airbnbs. I'm like, man, like you really needed to highlight that in the listing. And it was just kind of like one of those things where it's like, even in today's market in 2024, you think everybody's using professional pictures and I should be doing that, but still they're not, you know? And it's crazy to think that. I mean, I even use professional pictures on all my foreclosure properties, which is insane, I guess, too, because it's like they're highlighting these things that are $20,000, $30,000 houses that are falling down. So to me, I did the same thing. Like as soon as the quality of the photos exceeded my abilities, I just said everything's getting professional photos at this point. So. And I watched you because I was a friend and I was, seeing your success in the business, and I loved seeing you kind of level up and everything else. And you did. I remember at that time you changed a lot of how marketing, advertising, professionalism, presentation, marketing, everything that came with what you brought from your experiences at owning that marketing company to the Lafayette, and it changed the market. And you were able to level up your business and grow to crazy levels because of that. Yeah. Was there some other things that you were doing other than just expires for sub owners, all those things? Is there some other things?
That's what I was pretty much doing for most of my listings, was like boots on the ground, making the calls, making the appearances, because I didn't have a network. So that's what I was pretty much doing for all of my sellers. And then because I didn't know anybody, I had to buy people. I laugh. I had to buy my friends and buy my clients. So I did spend a lot of money on Zillow and Realtor.com buying into the top zip codes. So I remember I was starting at Keller Williams, and I remember I started buying these leads, and a few people were teasing me, like, who buys leads?
Right.
And you would think, like, Zillow now, everybody is just like, they fight for some of the top zip codes, but back then
nobody was
doing it. And I remember the day I got my license, I'm like, okay, well, how do I get buyer clients? I can kind of see how to get sellers. How do I get buyers? And so I just typed in Google. I was like, buy a house Lafayette or something like that. And then I'd never even heard of Zillow or Realtor or any of these websites. So I just clicked on one because they were the top hits. And it was like, agents, click here to advertise or whatever. And I just clicked there. Some sales rep called me up. He explained to me how it worked with, buying the zip codes, whatever. And I was like, okay, well, he's like, we have lots of availability. Like basically no one in your market is doing this. And I was like, okay, well, I'm interested in the top 2 or 3 zip codes. I think it was like Youngsville, South Lafayette, and Broussard.
Right.
And I was like, do you have any availability in these zip codes? Cause these are the fastest growing markets that we have. And he was like, oh yeah, it's all available. And I was like, okay, I will buy it all. And he was like, what do you mean? I said, I'll take 100% exposure in everything I just mentioned. The next day I woke up and I had so many inquiries in my inbox. I couldn't even get to them all on day one. Wow. It was incredible.
At that time, if nobody's doing it, definitely you were able to steal that market for sure. And you also were able to get probably one of the highest ratings on Zillow in Lafayette, and a number of ratings too, not just really overall high ratings, but a high number count of ratings on Zillow as well.
Yeah, and that's why I say it would be hard for me to restart and we're going to go through some things maybe in a minute what I would do if I was a new agent now. But back then, the reason why I have the highest number of reviews on Zillow is because I started before anybody else was really doing it. The reason why I have so many followers specifically on Facebook, not so much Instagram, but I'm trying to grow that. But anyway, is because I started utilizing those profiles to advertise listings very early on, at least in comparison to other agents in this market.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing that I'll say before we move on from that is, as a business guy that had a little bit of money to put into that scenario, you weren't afraid to spend the money to get the return, which I feel like a lot of realtors these days are kind of like, $500 a month, that's crazy. But when the net is $5,000 a month, you're like, it makes sense.
Yep.
So that was one thing I think probably from your story that I'm hearing, that you had a little bit of money ready to spend on your business to grow your business, and you weren't afraid to take all that's exposure in Zillow.
Yeah, that kind of circles back to your original question, which is like, you came here with nothing, but I did come here with a knowledge set and a nest egg to work with, where not all agents start with that. And I do have strategies to overcome if you don't have a knowledge set or you don't have, a huge nest egg to work with.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I love that. So I guess let's shift to where you are now with your current Zillow, because things have changed in that department, right?
Zillow, I cut out pretty much everything. Now, as I grew in my career, of course, a lot of my business started to come from good word of mouth. So, my phone would start to ring as I would deliver results from my clients and give them good service. People don't realize, like, just being a good person and giving somebody good quality service goes a long way in real estate, much more than a random Zillow lead that you can buy. And so as my referrals have grown and my notoriety and branding have grown, the online lead generation has become less relevant and almost irrelevant. But I started scaling back Zillow even before then. And now I'm down to, I just pay I give them like a couple $100 a month just to keep my profile semi-active. But I don't take any leads from Zillow anymore. And that was one of the things, is like, of course, my profile, or my referral base, excuse me. But the other thing is the return on investment. So Zillow used to put in $1 for every $1 or $2 I would put in, I'd get 5 to 10 back. But as like more competition, aka more agents came in and started bidding up and competing for those higher end zip codes, the return on the investment would go down. So I started off Zillow. It was like maybe a couple grand a month for all those high end exposures. And I was getting like 5 to 10x return on every dollar I'd put in. By the time I wound down Zillow, I was net negative ROI.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can't do that.
Can't do that. It's just a business decision, like Zillow's still a great company. They're a great website. A lot of people use them. It's not a good business decision if you're net negative, regardless of how much you like the website or the company.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've always done well with looking at things from a business perspective. When you ran a successful brokerage here locally, District South Real Estate Company, which was a company that I moved to about 2 years ago. And tell us a little bit about that backstory of how the District South thing came about with you and Carrie.
Sure. I mentioned Keller Williams. I started my career at Keller Williams. I was there for a couple of years. EXP came here. I thought their model was super cool. It was very innovative. And so I moved from Keller Williams to EXP for 2 years. And I love EXP. They were, pioneers of the agent ownership space in the beginning. Now you have to remember, this is the EXP when I joined them is not the EXP that is today. They were in their infancy. They were going through some growing pains, and they did not have all their systems and bugs worked out and the communications, whatever. I maybe I'm just like high maintenance or whatever, but I expected a lot from the firm maybe. And so I just had some frustrations, and I was like, you know what? I just want to break out and do my own thing. So I partnered up with Carrie Thayard, who's an incredible top agent in this town as well. And she and I started our own firm, which is District South Real Estate Company. And we built that firm up over the next 5 years.
Gotcha. And you guys ended up with about how many agents there at District South?
50. It was 50. I think it ended up being like 52.
Gotcha. Yeah. And about, what would you say, about a year and a half ago, you took the whole brokerage over to Real Broker?
Yeah. So about a year and a half ago, we merged District South with Real Broker. And it kind of came back to really the same reasons why I was attracted to EXP in the beginning, which is the agent ownership element of it, the stocks and the rev share. And the thing is even as a broker owner, when you look at these agent ownership models, it is what is best for the agent. And I own the firm, and I couldn't even create a financial financially rewarding system for my own agents that would be able to compete with that. So the biggest issue, and I kind of say this over and over again, these agent ownership models, they answer a gigantic problem in the industry that every agent faces, which is agents do not get a 401k and they do not get a pension. And agents are notoriously bad. They're bad just to pay their taxes. Like
right.
They're even worse when it talks about saving for retirement. And so, the cool thing about the Real Broker model is it not only is it very competitive on the commission splits, but they created the stock purchase program and the stock awards program and the rev share to supplement those things that agents are really bad at. And then they made it extremely attractive as well for the agents. So I was like, man, I know that this is the future. Like District South was making a lot of money and they were still extremely relevant. As you know, they were one of the top firms in town that Carrie and I put blood, sweat, and tears into building. But it wasn't what is good for District South right now. It's where are we going to be in 5 to 10 years as these agent ownership models become more and more enticing to the agents who are 1099 contractors. They're their own business. And I know that if I was an agent running my own business, that's what I would want. And so that's why it was like we had to make a tough decision saying that was the toughest decision we had to ever make, actually.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I was there for that decision, and it was crazy. But what we'll do is also, just so that people are following along, we'll get Carrie and Sean back to kind of talk about that whole journey of how that whole situation happened, and really at its core dive deeper into why that decision was made and where we are now and what people can take from that effort, because that was a big jump from taking a baby that you built and essentially saying, well, we're dissolving it, or it's not going to exist in its existing form, which was a huge move. A lot of people want to know specifically more from both you and Carrie in that whole space too. And we're going to definitely get there when we can get Carrie involved as well. But let's jump and let's pivot more to if I'm a new agent, let's talk about 2024. We're fast forwarding to the present, and we are where we are. You're stopping Zillow. You've narrowed that down. Let's shift more into I'm a new agent, or I'm an agent right now who's had a tough year, who wants to find out a way that they can start on the path to leveling up their business or growing their business. What would you tell that agent?
You're going to have to learn how to work.
Yeah.
I mean, that is really what it boils down to, because I think agents got very, very spoiled, especially during the last 2022 when deals were flying, money was flying, deals were flying. It was very, very easy. And a lot of these agents, they either never worked, or they never had to work if they came into the market at that time, or they forgot how to work because it became so easy. So you're going to have to get back to actually working. And it's a hard pill to swallow when you can look in the mirror and said, what was my production level to get things achieved today? And if you're actually really honest with yourself, you didn't do shit. You spent a lot of time scrolling on social media. Maybe you did a post or a silly reel, and maybe you made 1 or 2 calls. It's not enough, okay, if you want to stay in the game. And that's me being real if you want the real answer,
Absolutely.
And so you're going to have to basically get back to work. It's basically just time versus money is the conundrum that you're going to face. So some agents will have money and then they can buy time, and some people will have more time and then they have to put in the work to earn more money, so then they can leverage to grow. And so time versus money is the big thing. So if you do have more time than money, then you're going to have to put in more of the legwork. But if you have more money than you do time, then you're going to have to invest in your business in different ways, whether it be leverage or marketing or outsourcing or whatever. And we can dive into some of those things if you want.
Yeah, sure. Let's talk about more like the agent who has the time.
Okay.
What are we doing with that time? What are we doing with that time? If I'm a new agent, got a lot of time, don't have a lot of money, what are we doing?
More time than money. So, I mean, really it kind of comes back to the basics. I would really be spending a lot of my time networking in, like, so let's take social media, for example. I would be spending a lot of time in some of those more specialized groups, which would be neighborhood pages, some of the moms groups, some of the local sports team groups, there's like local camping pages. There's so many of those things that you can do. I'm not telling people to not use social media when I kind of pick fun at like agents for spending a lot of time on social media. But if you use social media as a tool to generate business, it can be very impactful. So I'd be spending a lot of time on social media, like interacting in some of those more localized regional pages to answer people's questions. That would be that's the only thing that I'd really be doing on social media, minus like doing informational or value add or entertaining or engaging reels. Reels and video are very important right now. And then, so in terms of like the time, of course you can do the stock standard thing, which is prospect for sale by owners, cancels and expireds. That's never going to go out of style. But of course, a lot of people do that. So you want to do things that make you a little bit different. Not to say don't do it, but you kind of want to do things that a lot of agents are not doing. And I think another thing that is completely underrated in the agent world is interacting with your personal networks, your friends and family, of course, but you don't want your friends and family to think that you only see them as a dollar sign. But I'm saying your more extended networks. So that would be the people that you know at your gym or your fitness center or your kids' schools or your church, and if you're not involved in those types of more in-person groups, like you need to get involved with some of those things. Join some of the clubs. I don't care if it's a knitting club. Go get involved in stuff and start building bridges with other people. And it's going to open up not just business, but just great interpersonal relationships, and it's going to expand your horizons.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, because if you've got time to join the PTO. You've got time to join a club of a similar interest. I always tell agents, like, be involved in something that you're truly interested in, because if you're not, they can tell that you're not interested in that. They'd be like, oh, Jamie just joined, or you see these politicians just join these clubs and whatever, and then they want your vote. You want to join it with some good intention of actually being interested in what you're trying to do there.
Absolutely.
So let's shift gears to, if I have a little bit of money and I'm an agent, or maybe even it's the end of the year and you're like, hey man, I need to throw a little money towards something. What would you tell that agent that does have a little bit of money that they'd like to invest to grow their business? Where are you putting that?
Leverage. I mean, it's my favorite L word.
Yeah.
I joke about that. My wife hates when I say that, but you have to invest. If you really want to grow your income, you have to invest in leveraged activities. So you need to start outsourcing anything that you're not professional at, and then you really need to start throwing money behind your brand. So for instance, we mentioned photography earlier, but a lot of people outsource photography. That is one element of leverage. But I mean, I've started to leverage out everything basically. I mean, the only thing that I really do now is client interaction. So transaction coordinator, assistant, I outsource my marketing for my Instagram. I mean, I'm still in the videos, but I don't do any of the post editing. I don't do basically much of anything. And that doesn't mean that I'm lazy. I'm employing other people's skill sets that is their world. I know that they're better at that than me. So, but in the beginning, when you don't have a lot of money, you have to put in the time, because you can't afford to leverage out. But as you accumulate more money, you have to leverage out to be able to grow to the point where you've taken so much off of your plate that you can really focus in on your core competency, which is being an awesome agent and an awesome human being.
Yeah, I love that about leverage. Yeah, and you've been able to do that so well, and I'm kind of following in your footsteps with your advice and your leadership and that kind of stuff in that department as well, because, I mean, there's just some things I just don't get excited about. I mean, I love real estate. I love being in front of people. I just can't stand writing contracts, or the paper pushing and the behind the scenes things. And even with social media, I enjoy that, but I don't enjoy, like you said, the post editing or scheduling, all that stuff, where it's like, I don't mind being in front of the camera, but I don't want to sit there and make it look good and set up the advertising and the marketing and all that stuff,
Yeah, like spreadsheets and taking care of QuickBooks and stuff. Ugh, I mean, that just drives me crazy. But my assistant, she's a little bit more introverted, and she loves that. The organization, all that. You have to hire the right people too, but get the people like that match the skill set that is going to be fulfilled. That is their strength, and you can interview them. I mean, there's nothing wrong with being, hey, I don't want to hire an alpha outgoing personality to do QuickBooks.
Right.
Like they're going to quit after a week.
Yeah. Like they'd be like chained to a desk.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess we're getting close on time, but let's go ahead and have you maybe give one more little bit of encouragement to agents who are listening to this right now, and they are down. Their 2024 has been a rough year for them. Give them maybe one more last little encouragement, and then we'll wrap it up.
This kind of goes into probably my last reel that I did, but man, I'm torn between consistency and scheduling. So I think for the people that are down, let's say, because it has been a rough year, I think I would pick out of those two scheduling. And so when you're feeling, because the question that I answered on my most recent reel was, do you have bad days? And yes, I absolutely have bad days. I am a human being, and there's days where I just don't want to. You know what I mean? You get that?
Absolutely.
And you're in a bad mood, or you skip coffee, whatever. You just don't want to do it. You're just not in the mood, whatever. Or you're feeling depressed because you lost a deal or whatever. You don't have any clients. There's a lot of different things that can put you in a bad mood. So, but there's a lot of days where I wake up and I'm in a great mood. And those are the days when you want to like say, okay, today I'm in a great mood. I'm feeling like I want to achieve something. And so I'm going to schedule out my emails for the next 6 months, and I'm going to shoot a bunch of reels today. I'm just going to change my clothes. I'm going to accomplish these things by lunch, and then I'm going to put them in. We have all these cool technology. Technology is so amazing. You can cut and paste and put them all in there and put them in a scheduler. And so the cool thing is you can do the same thing for your listings, put them in a schedule to be promoted or boosted or rolled out, or, in whatever with your schedules. Those, once you have those in a scheduler and on a timeline, that system goes whether or not you're in a good mood or bad mood. And so when I'm in a very motivated and I'm in a good mood, I do a lot of the hard yards right then. And then it doesn't matter if I have a bad day the next day or the next week or whatever, because the system keeps going. So I think just the most important thing is to build out a bulletproof system. And then it doesn't matter what your mood is. It doesn't matter what the weather's like.
Yeah, or if your kid is sick or whatever.
Your kid is sick, whatever. Like the system rolls with or without you. And that is what any good business does. Like even if you look at Starbucks, the CEO of Starbucks, guess what? He has bad days, but the system below him doesn't matter. The system keeps running. That's probably a bad analogy.
No, it's a good analogy, because the coffee is going to be the same whether you're going to go anywhere in the country.
Yeah, exactly. You have the supply chain and the people that you've hired to keep everything going. And so I'm just running a very simple version of a Starbucks.
Yeah, there you go. And you can find you on any street corner.
Yeah.
So anyway, Sean, I appreciate you sitting down with us. I know you've got a ton of value and a ton of knowledge, and you run your business like a business, and you're inspiring to everyone in our group for sure, because you do that. I appreciate you spending a little time with us. It's been awesome to hang out and have you as a mentor and a leader and everything. So
thank you. Of course, I appreciate you inviting me on.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll put some of Sean's contact information, and go follow him on social media, and make sure you laugh at some of his reels and his funny things he does, his memes and all that stuff. So anyway, I hope that you guys, if you're getting some value from this podcast, give us a favorable review, give us a like, give us a share, send it to a friend who may be struggling, and we hope that you guys have an amazing day.